education businesses in India. So, for starters, I'm your host, Rapti. I manage content marketing at Instamojo, and we recently, like about a year ago, we launched something called mojoSeries, which is a EdTech platform or a learning platform for entrepreneurs. While I would love to take you through mojoSeries more, but today it's more about our panel members and more about them. So let's get started with introductions. Kavitta and Katherine run ExtraView. They will be able to tell us a little more. Kavitta, can you please introduce us to ExtraView and introduce yourself, please?
Sure. Hi, and thank you for having us here. My name is Kavitta Bedi. I am one of the founders and the CEO for ExtraView. ExtraView is a company that teaches everyone how to communicate on digital platforms. And we believe it's a life skill today. It's critical to how you function and to your success.
Katherine, a little about you.
Sure. Hi, I'm Katherine Mehta, so I'm also one of the co-founders of ExtraView. For the past decade, I've been working in the higher education consulting space between India and the US. And yeah, as Kavitta mentioned, ExtraView sort of came about last year as a solution to fill the gaps that we saw in terms of communication that was happening both at the high school level, but even at the university level, even for students who were moving into internship roles. So there are multiple points in a student's life and in their career when they need to be able to converse, to sell themselves, to tell their story, but where that sort of those skills in communication weren't necessarily being met. And so ExtraView as a service arose in that way. And then on a digital platform, it's then our audience is throughout India and global. So sort of our ability to kind of reach out to students and universities, even internship companies, works really well in the digital context.
Cool. Suhas, could you also introduce yourself to the audience, please?
Sure. Thanks, Rapti. Pleasure to be here. My name is Suhas Kaul. I've been in education for almost about 6 years, 7+ years now. I've seen both sides of the education space, created a product that is very physical in nature, ran it for the last 7 years, which was in the consulting space. And then also for the last 3 years, been running MentorMind, co-founded MentorMind with 2 of my other partners. In the digital space, which we now refer to as EdTech. What we do at MentorMind is we are an online platform for undergraduate and postgraduate students, where students can just go online and do real-time industry-level projects with companies, what we call mentorships. These are nothing but virtual internships that students can do online, try and gain the right relevant work which can accelerate their career growth.
Right. So just to warm up the audience with some questions about how we can, let's start with some basics of how you can get started with an EdTech business, right? So the first question was that I had was, what are some things you can consider when starting an EdTech business? And I want to give this question to Kavitta. Kavitta, could you shed some light on what are some things that a business should consider when they're just starting up in the EdTech sector?
Yeah. Sure. So I think, like everything else you do in life, to have passion for what you do is the first thing when you're getting into any business, and EdTech is not different at all. I think when you find the need within yourself to do a little bit of good to someone else's life, because eventually, what is an EdTech business doing? It is equipping you with skills or knowledge that helps you succeed. So I feel anyone in the space of EdTech comes from a need of wanting to help someone else succeed. And I think the passion that you share for a project has to be replicated in exactly the same way as any other business that you might have. However, if I break it down into, what are the things that you must do before you start a EdTech business, you identify the need, you identify the gap in the market, and you find a solution to the problem, or you find a solution to the need. I think that's the first premise of starting any business, and so is the case with the EdTech business. Know your market. Know your market well to understand the gaps that exist, where you plug your product in.
Right.
Point number 3, be very clear about your product proposition. I think if you are clear about your own product, what it aims to deliver, how it's going to benefit, who is it going to benefit, then
Right.
it's very clear to communicate that to your customers. And when I mean customers, not only people who are signing on to your platform, but even internally, because communication is both external as well as internal. And when
Right.
you're setting up a business, acquiring customers comes quite down the line. You first have to internally communicate to build the processes, to build the people, to build the team who are going to work with you as a cohesive whole to deliver.
Absolutely.
And then I think you have your business model. You set your goals both for the short term as well as for the long term. And then you go out to the market when you are sure that your product delivers. I think when there is no gap between what you are promising and what the customer is getting, that's when success happens.
Right, those are some great pointers, right? Like even when we started mojoversity at Instamojo, I remember going through all of these basics along with our CEO, and we were wondering, like who should we cater to? How do we build this? But one thing that always kept coming back is like we got around to building the product. We knew how to do it and what we want to do, who we want to do it for. But the only question that came is how do we acquire our first 100 customers? And this is across businesses, right? Like not just for edtech. So my next question would be, how can an edtech company actually get its first 100 users? And I want to give this question to Suhas. Suhas, could you tell us like what happened at MentorMind and how were you able to get your first 100 customers? And some other insights on how a
So
business can get its first 100 customers.
sure. So I think firstly, fully agree with Kavita. You have to find the right gap product into the space, right? Once you have achieved that, once you have really got a very well iterated product that goes well with the market and the market is responding really well, I think then the tricky part comes is growth, right? How do you really accelerate really well to get your first 100, then 1,000, and then 10,000 customers? Uh, for us, we've had certain strategies that came across the way. It took us, you know, do a certain amount of time. When we first launched, we wanted to accelerate our we want to accelerate in our space as a B2C product. Means is go through multiple channels. That is, acquire customers digitally, acquire customers through multiple marketing workshops, through multiple marketing sessions, webinars, all of that across various channels. But where we found our sweet spot, and I think COVID also added that for us, was route where we directly started in partnerships with universities and colleges, and we made sure we were able to reach our first 100, first 1,000, and first 10,000 customers very, very quickly. So for us, like I said, there are multiple ways to get your first 100, first 1,000 customers, but you have to go all in a particular way. Going all in into the B2B route where we build a sales team. We got multiple people under one roof, and then they started selling to they started to universities and colleges and various programs in those spheres. But then again, you can explore ways. I think one thing is identify the gap, and from that gap, see what is the best route you can take, and where does that need actually fill. For is directly with placement cells, right? We found out that placement cells need our product because they want to improve their chances of placements in the campus, and that's their number one goal. So we were directly a solution for them. So we then acquired our first 100 customers through this way. Similarly, if you're going to find out which platform digitally right, where students come at this point in time, are they on Instagram, are they on Facebook, where is your target audience all throughout, right? So if they are there, you need to go full on pedal to the metal in that specific space.
Right. And that actually brings me to my next question, right? What are some acquisition channels that have actually worked for your businesses? And I wanna talk about this with Katherine. Katherine, could you tell us a little about how Extraview has been working with acquisition channels? What are some of your major acquisition channels, and how have you been managing them so far?
Sure. So, in terms of sort of generating leads, generating inquiries, of course, there is digital marketing that we've been doing. Webinars, we have our social media content that's going out. But sort of echoing what Suhas had said, it's really these strategic partnerships that help to kind of drive those sales home. So, in partnerships with organizations that already have established sales channels and sales leads, that's where we've found the most success, especially because so that customer acquisition and sales is one of the most expensive points, especially for a startup. And so if you can piggyback on the efforts of an organization, a strategic partner who already has that established, that's where we've seen that it really kind of drives the sale home and moves it beyond just the inquiry stage.
Absolutely. Even at mojoSeries, that's what we've been doing. We've been reaching out to different partners and subject matter expertise who have been contributing courses for entrepreneurs on the platform, right? Like we have courses with ClearTax, we have courses with HubSpot on email marketing. With ClearTax, we have a course on GST. So I think, partnerships is definitely something that has been working in the edtech market. And it seems to be the trend, right? It seems to be something that everybody's banking on for growth. But keeping partnerships aside, what are some trends that you think the edtech market is moving towards? And I'd like to give this question to Kavitta.
Sure. I think EdTech is the new cool kid on the block. Everyone wants to be in EdTech. Everyone, is an entrepreneur in the education space, and it's the cool thing to be in. Having said all of that, I think some of the trends that we are going to see, and some of which is already happening. I think there's going to be a lot more focus on STEM content, so courses that are going to give you content on robotics, on programming, on analytics, on, all of that. I think there's going to be a lot of influx of content on that. I think cybersecurity, digital security is going to start playing a huge and even more important role, because the number of hours one is spending on these platforms, the age at which one is coming onto these digital platforms is getting younger and younger. And COVID has, sort of made it a necessity. But that also means that, digital security and privacy of data is going to be a concern that is going to be, need to be addressed very quickly in the life cycle.
Right.
We're going to see a lot of flipped learning. This is a new term I came across, where learning happens one-to-one, but then you collaborate in groups or with your teacher, or in a physical space to deliver homework, versus earlier how it was that learning was in the classroom and you did homework individually. Another thing, artificial reality, virtual reality, gamification of courses, all of this is going to happen. I think it's a writing on the wall, and like I said, a lot of it is already going on. Also, one very interesting thing is that I think digital literacy will need to increase, because what's the point of all these tools and magic learning programs if you don't learn how to use them? So I think digital literacy needs to go up, and not just in the metros, but in the smaller cities also.
Right.
And I think lastly, another point would be there's going to be big data analysis. So earlier, while you could analyze your audience to see what kind of courses are happening, now teachers are going to be able to analyze how their learning is being delivered. So it's going to be interesting to see, for example, a course shows that the learning uptake is high, but the testing methodology is not up to the mark. So I feel that's going to be fairly revolutionary in the digital space. But all of this is only going to be possible when people learn to communicate what they have learned effectively on these platforms. So I could have learned 100 things, but if I'm not able to come and state whether it's an interview I'm doing, or it's a presentation I'm making, or it's a conversation or a webinar like this, then my learning is of no use. It's not effective. So this is the gap that needs to be filled. And this is where ExtraView came into the picture, where we're actually teaching you to communicate well on online platforms.
Right. I have a follow-up question about this very interesting point that you mentioned about digital literacy in tier 2, tier 3 cities. And I'd love if you could give me some more insight on what do you think should be done to improve digital literacy in these tier 2, tier 3 cities? Because a lot of edtech businesses today are starting from these tier 2, tier 3 cities also. And even on Instamojo, we have like a huge number of education businesses who are either selling some sort of online digital content for education, like ebooks or videos or some sort of content, right? So, what can be done in the digital literacy sector?
So, I think this is a great opportunity to revolutionize the learning space, not just for companies, but even for people who are going to get this training and basic skill building. You see, if you can teach people how to appreciate TikTok videos, you can also teach people how to use it as a learning tool. It's possible, we've seen it being done.
Yeah.
So I think what will be needed is for people to look beyond the bubble of the metros, where it's easy to acquire customers, go a little bit deeper, and I think this is that social responsibility that people in edtech I feel inherently have to
Hmm.
go beyond the obvious and to go and actually invest in projects and a lot is happening, to be honest, a lot is happening. And I think the mobile revolution which has happened is going to be a great part of how this learning and upskilling will be delivered.
Right, right. Catherine, do you want to add something to that?
Yeah, I mean, I think the other thing that I would add is not thinking of it as two separate spaces. Education, in-person education is one space, and digital online education is another. If the two of them inherently can be sort of intertwined and starting from a very young age, then that not only builds digital literacy, but in fact, I think it makes learning more effective, sort of with this idea that it is not two distinct and separate spaces or spheres of one's life, but that learning happens wherever you are, whenever you are able to fit it in, right? It sort of all overlaps and comes together. And I think that there's nothing inherently that's sort of preventing that from happening, from the two being really smoothly integrated together.
Correct. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And I mean, there's so much going on in the edtech industry. Like Kavitta mentioned, cool kids. So everybody's like into the edtech space. They want to be there. They also use it as a great branding tool for this point. But when it comes to making revenue and when it comes to making like actual money out of a business and an edtech business, how do you go about pricing your services, right? Your courses. So, Suhas, I wanted to ask you this: what's your take on free content versus paid content? How do you decide that this is when you want to make your course or your services, edtech services free, and then slowly move into a pricing model? So, what's your take on that?
So see, personally at MentorMind, what we did was we started off as a free service. We wanted to make sure our service was available to students across spaces, across borders, for no cost. But what we noticed there was our certification rate was continuously dropping. So lesser students, were completing the platform because we're completing these courses because it was given to them for free of cost.
Right.
What we noticed when we started charging a very, very nominal amount to these students, we started seeing a little bit more with these students, and the certification rate going up drastically, not a little bit, not by say 5 or 6%, but drastically by 30-40% is what we saw the certification rate going up. And
Yeah.
again, like data analytics came into picture there, and then we started changing the space where we started charging students a nominal fee, which we've been doing for the last 1.5 year, and making sure that the students had a reason to take this up, right? Because if they have a reason, then they have a reason to complete it as well. So when we made sure students start paying it, we were able to what student is interested. We were able to align our marketing to it. We were able to align our resources better that specific category. So which reduce acquisition cost in future as well, right? So what you have to do to find that sweet spot between free versus paid is definitely experimentation with any product. You cannot really based on your target audience. Based on your target audience, take Upgrad for example, or take Byju's for example. Both of them have very, very different target audiences, and they have a pricing structure that is very, very flexible.
Right.
Finding that is through experimentation only. I don't think so there's a company in the edtech space that has come out and said this is the price and they've continued with it for say a long gap of 3 to 5 years. So
Right.
it always keeps changing, and as new curriculum and as new content and the space, like Kavitta said, you are the new kid. Everyone wants to be in EdTech. That's also because COVID has somewhere accelerated this space a lot,
Yeah.
right? To give you a very very simple example, uh, our conversion ratio with our strategic partners used to be say around 6 to 9 months pre-COVID, and after COVID it has decreased to almost 50%, which is 3 to 6 months, right? So initially, what that means is we used to convert a university, to be our customer, say in about a 6 to 9 months. So that was the life cycle of just making a sale. Now
Mhm.
that has reduced to 3 to 6 months because more people understand the literacy, more people understand what it is to study online. Otherwise, more people were reprehensive to it. They didn't want to do it at that point of time because they had everyone under the same umbrella, under the same roof. Now they don't. There are students, in multiple cities, and they have to turn to a digital learning atmosphere so that they can make sure the service is being given equally to all the students. So uh, finding the right sweet spot, finding that sweet spot, with free or paid, is very essential, and it'll only come with, I think, over time and with experimentation. So I the only thing you can do is keep on experimenting, lowest, and then slowing the price, so that you also, and obviously you have to take customer feedback. So as your content also keeps improving, you can also start start pricing a little bit, because a student or a customer wouldn't mind paying a little high for a good quality content.
Right, right, right. Speaking of quality of content, right? This is something that I wanted to ask for personal, knowledge. I want to give this to Catherine. Catherine, can you tell us like what role does content really play? Because there are reams and reams of content available on the internet, and how can I set apart my edtech business from the one that's already there? So I'm sure that content plays a huge role, but how can someone figure out that spark or that edge that they can have among their competitors? So how can I set myself apart in terms of content?
Yeah, yeah. So again, like you said, I think it is about sort of figuring out what are you providing, what value are you adding, what are you bringing to the table that doesn't already exist in the market. If it's something that someone else is providing, they're going to go to the other content provider. If it's something that's already widely available, people can just look that up and figure it out on their own. So it's sort of that, what are you bringing, whether it's in terms of your own expertise, you or your team's expertise and experience that adds value and that isn't available elsewhere, or if it's a very specific niche that you're tapping into that hasn't already been tapped. But absolutely, I think that content is key, and having that content that is sort of fresh and not widely available. Otherwise, the question is, why would I pay for this when I can just go get it for free somewhere else? Right? Trying to find sort of that, I think in marketing there are kind of three buckets. There's people who already have what they need, so they therefore don't need your service. There are people who know that they need it, but they think they can get it elsewhere, and then there are the people that they need it yet. And so, sort of positioning your content
Right.
between that they don't already have, that isn't already being provided, or you're providing it at a higher level, or perhaps it's something people don't yet realize they need. And so then it's kind of educating the market to that need that your content is providing.
Right, right. Got it. And this so much goes into building an edtech platform, right? Like, I'm sure that it's not always rosy. Obviously, when you've launched the product and when you see people signing up and taking your courses, and you see money rolling in, but also I'm sure that there have always been ups and downs. So, Kavita or Catherine, if either of you could like tell us about some of the challenges you faced when you started Extraview.
So I think I'll start and Catherine can add. There are happy challenges on an everyday basis, right? Because if we did not have challenges, we would not strive, we would not constantly evolve, and we would not work that much harder. You have the fire in your belly to deliver only because you're challenged by your customers. And I think that is something that every entrepreneur needs to have to succeed. So with ExtraView, we are very new, we are very young, and we are possibly in that stage of the marketing bucket where we have to make our market understand that this need is critical. This need is something you need to know of, and it's going to become, it's going to be like you need to know how to write an essay. So you need to know how to communicate well on digital platforms. And you see, a lot of skills parents give their children or teachers give their children, just unknowingly. It's part of the system. Like kids are taught alphabets because it's part of the system. It's so easy to learn, right?
Sure.
COVID, COVID has accelerated digital presence, digital communication in such a fast manner that even adults are learning on the go. They are learning as they are delivering, right?
Right.
So, what you are learning, how do you then become a resource for your children? So,
Right.
I think one of the challenges is to make our customers understand that the need for this is rampant, and similarly for college students or master's students, they need to get those jobs. It's a very competitive market. It's a very tough environment, and you need every extra edge you can get to
Right.
swing
Right.
the wheel.
Right. Right. Suhas, what about you? What were some of the challenges Mentor Mind had to, like cut through to get to where it is today? I think Suhas is stuck.
Yeah. I think that while we wait for his connection to catch up, what I would add to that too, not just for ExtraView, but I think for any player in the EdTech space, is the challenge of establishing credibility, right? As Kavitta mentioned, there's so many options in the market. There are so many new players who are coming in every day. And the other thing with working in the digital space is that we're no longer limited by geography. In the past, if I was looking for something in education, I would be limited to sort of the confines of Delhi NCR where I'm based. Now it doesn't matter. You can choose anyone from anywhere in the world. All of that has sort of been broken down, but it also means that it needs to be, you then go for someone who's sort of established, who has, established that credibility, who has that trust. So I think the way to build that is to deliver, right? Time and time again, if you deliver on what you're promising, then you will establish that trust and that credibility within the market. So that's something that's built over time, but it's built through sort of having that clear vision and then the ability to stick to and deliver on that.
Absolutely, absolutely agree with that. We have a few questions coming in from different channels. I'm going to start taking them and direct them towards. Someone's asked, should I only do video content to grow my education business in 2021? Kavitta, would you want to take that?
Sure. So I think we need to know a little bit more about the business specifically. What kind of education are you doing? What part of education are you dealing with? And of course, so video content is going to be very important. I think eventually we will evolve to a hybrid sort of system based on the vaccination rollout, based on the case counts, based on how this whole virus plays out, because we still don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. And that's the biggest learning that COVID has taught us, that everything is so uncertain, right? So I would say yes, video content will be a very strong part of how you will get to your customer base or how you will talk about it. But I think eventually, once the madness has settled, we will evolve to some sort of a hybrid content,
Mm-hmm.
because digital content is not going away for sure. It's now here to stay.
I had a question, actually, a follow-up question to that. Like, given that the amount of content and ed tech has actually become, education has actually got tech to it, right? And the amount of devices and stuff that we are exposed to on a day-to-day basis. And then there's this other part of people where they're like, let's try and cut down screen time. Not just adults, even for kids, right? Like, what is going to happen? What's the balance looking like, and how is it going to go from there?
I'm going to answer that in a slightly with a slightly funny anecdote. When one industry grows, several other ancillary industries also grow, right? And one direct impact that I see is medication for dry eyes. I think the pharmaceutical business, which gives the medication for dry eyes, that is going to exponentially grow. And that's my tip for anybody wanting to
New
invest in a
partnership
business.
avenue for all edtech businesses. Right?
Yes. So I
Uh,
think, but on a more serious note, I think the more the content will evolve, our engagement will remain, will start to become on different levels. It
right.
won't just remain visual. So it'll become mental, it'll become emotional, because the kind of content we will consume, even that will mature. We are learning how to deliver back after this learning. So
Correct.
I think all of that will play its part out. And like I said, we're going to have a hybrid sort of system where physical will come back, but in a reduced format for sure, because people have learned this works and this delivers.
For sure.
Yeah.
For
No, and to that I would add too, I mean, video content is very scalable in that you create it and then it's there. And then, delivering it and continuing to push it out is very little incremental, cost to you beyond that. But I think that at some point people do grow tired of just passive video content and they want to feel like they're getting that engagement, even if it's still online, but it's, there's a real person talking to me, answering my questions, and sort of that kind of hybrid model, I think may be kind of the sweet spot between the two.
Right, right. Welcome back, Suhas. We lost you for a moment, but you're back
Yeah,
now. So maybe you can
yeah,
take the next question. We just opened up the
no
audience
problem.
questions, so we'll take them.
Sure.
What do you think restricts people from signing up for education courses more? Is it a lack of awareness? Is it fees? What is it?
So, I think just to what you really have to understand here is edtech for a lot of people is still new, right? Because where we come from, where we've studied, even for someone who's just graduated, say in 2014 or 2016, even for them, education online edtech courses are very, very new because the boom has very recently come in the last 2 to 3 years, right? That's when the acceptance has really started to grow. So for me, I think it's more on lack of awareness, but that again has changed drastically in 1 year, right? So for
Right.
whatever it was supposed to change in the next 5 to 6 years, all of that has happened in the
Accelerated.
last 1 year because yeah, schools were just schools, colleges, everything was just shut. So people just got more time and they were online a lot more than they were online before, right? So the awareness has significantly improved, and that has also driven the cost down. So if you look at it from a scalable point of view, more money has started to flow over the last 1 year in edtech than it was flowing in, right? So which gives companies more advantage to grow to tier 2, tier 3 cities. It also gives them an opportunity to drive the cost low for their product, right? Because with edtech, what happens once you've created really strong and really good content, really quality content for your platform or really quality content for your course, then you can slowly start to drive costs down, in the future by automating a lot of things, right?
Correct. Correct.
So for now, once the awareness keeps on increasing, I think more and more students, more and more customers will start looking at, the online courses and everything. And I think we have, this stay at home in effect. The awareness is going to keep on going up. Then obviously, once you find, then the next challenge I think for all of us is to find the right spot, right sweet spot with the hybrid program. How much, and it has been there in existence, right? So if you look at say a Byju's model as well, Byju's is just complementing your school education system, and it's been there for the last 11 years, right?
Right.
Students were still going to school and they were still using Byju's. So with other aspects in as well, we have to find that right coexistence so that we can use both offline and online education systems that are available to us. Yeah, but I think awareness has improved. So until we have the stay at home in effect, we should see awareness going up at like a 10x speed throughout.
Absolutely. Absolutely agree with all those pointers. The next question is for ExtraView. Who do you rely on marketing and promotions for your business? It specifically says that this question is for ExtraView.
Okay. So, like we said, you have to find the correct partners. So, for us, the obvious partners are counselors, schools, universities, and in universities, both the incoming admissions department, because an extra view interview can be used along with your application that is given when you submit your application for admission, and also the placement cell of universities, where we train students under extra prep on how to ace your communication, how to ace your interviews, and also how to build elevator pitches. They then continue to do sample interview on the ExtraView platform, which can be sent along with their written resume, or can be just used as a practice interview. So all those channels are channels that we use, along with, of course, the regular route of digital marketing. Catherine, have I missed anything?
No, I think you've covered it. And I mean, I think the two of them sort of play a different role, and that digital marketing is important in terms of building our visibility, building market awareness. But then the other ones, the counselors, the partnerships that we have are the really important touch points in terms of sort of filling that little gap between a student knowing we exist and a student then feeling like, okay, I can see the utility for me personally, as opposed to, yes, okay, this is something that's there, but now I understand how and why this would be useful and relevant for me.
And I'd like to add one more point, going back to my first point of having passion for what you do and actually going that extra mile to equip someone for success. One recent program we've tied up with is the Harvard YLC program that is brought to India by a company called the Big Red Group. And we're doing an outreach program in 100 schools across India, which includes tier 2, tier 3 cities,
Wow.
where we're asking principals to nominate children to be able to win a scholarship to this program, completely
Oh,
free,
that's great.
right? And how we are going to do that is through online interviews, online training for communication. So this is going to work in two ways. A, we are bringing our brand closer to you. We are offering you an experience of what we are doing. And three, here is an actual opportunity for us to be able to offer a tangible benefit to a student. So this is one example of different areas that we like to do, unique things we like to do as marketing initiatives for ourselves.
Very interesting. I'd quickly move on to the next question. There are quite a few questions coming in. In the K-12 education industry, children are users, but their parents make the payments. Which is the best social media tool or any other way to reach both client base? Suhas, you want to take that?
Yeah. So very interesting. When we were building MentorMind, we actually studied a lot of business models, very specifically Byju's, because it was a very, very big name, Byju's topper. To understand the K-12 space. Very interestingly, all of these Byju's, White Hat Junior, or take Topper for example, sell very, very limited on digital platforms, right? Majority of their sales happen, with feet on street, what we call it, with direct sales people, reaching out to, the parents.
Correct.
And majority of these cases, and we've seen this like a very good practice in the case, all of these parents are more accessible right now, because they want to keep on improving their children's education. So what what Topper or Byju's or any of these kids, EdTech players have understood is to reach out, it can drive their children's. Right now it's not cut, but in the K-12 space, it's more about how to drive their scores better. How can a student score better during that space, right? So the players have really found found the secret code to reach out to the parents, and they are doing like them. So the best way to do it, what has been tried and tested, is that method where you more and more people, they reach out to more and more students as well, and specifically their parents. In cases like this, is your customer acquisition cost is very, very high, because you're employing people. So what that does is drive your program fees really high, right?
Right.
So uh, that's a fair bit of balance you'll have to do.
Yeah.
But if you have a product, then you look at it highly on Facebook. I don't see a lot. So I do see a lot of parents using Facebook literacy, as that space has really, really improved. And my parents, they are both 60 plus, and they both use Facebook very, very much, right? So they're very, very acquainted to it. So they're using Facebook a lot. So I find that parents are now very well acquainted to Facebook over a period of time. So you can use that social media tool very well, reach out to your target audience. But what you can do otherwise is have a specific people employed in your company, or as consultants, and then find pockets have ideally nearby schools, nearby K-12 schools, where you have parents residing, and reach out to those parents very, very specifically with a catered product school, right? So a lot of strategy that would involve here would slightly, I think the results would be more fruitful in the end.
Very, very strategic and actionable items there. Thanks for that, Suhas. I'll take the next question quickly. It asks, is there any way to sell my ebooks on Instamojo? Yes, there are. Our product is built for digital content. It's very easy to sell ebooks online on Instamojo. Just set up your online store. It's a two minute job, and add your digital content, and you can start selling. It comes integrated with payments, and you get data about your customers, like who has paid for which digital content at what time. You get their email ID data, and you get their phone numbers, and they can pay easily with our integrated payment solution. So yes, what we'll do is we'll send you a link in the comments itself to how to sell ebooks online on Instamojo, and you can just follow the guide, and you can do that just in 2 minutes. Quickly moving on to the next question is starting an EdTech platform same as starting a business? For example, Byju's is an EdTech company, but HubSpot is not. Yet they have e-learning option for their users. Katherine, you want to take this one?
Yeah, I mean, I guess sort of like that. So an EdTech platform is a business, but not all businesses are EdTech platforms, right? So I think that when you're approaching an EdTech platform, yes, you need to have the same basics in place, that you know who your audience is, you know your business plan, you have your pricing, right? So all of the same things that you would have in place for any sort of business that you're starting. But then is a business always... So I suppose, though, you could, I guess a different way to look at it is that you have a business that has an again, an e-learning option, but is not necessarily ed tech. It may just be that is one of the products or the services, but in and of itself, it is not an ed tech business.
Right, and adding to that, I think I'd like to add some inputs to that. Like, absolutely, starting if you want to, like for example, Instamojo. We started mojoSeries. It's not a specific revenue generating product for Instamojo, but we still have an edtech learning platform as a part of Instamojo as a business, because as a mission for the company, our ideology is to get any entrepreneur to come online and start selling and growing and managing their business. And with mojoSeries, we want to make that journey easier. So for a lot of companies, I'm guessing the same with HubSpot, is that they want to make the journey of their user much more smoother online, and they want to like add value to their customers' experience, right? So while edtech companies can be edtech companies like Byju's, but having an educational platform with your content marketing efforts connected, I think it can be a great branding and a great customer experience tool in general for your business. So I think that's what I had to add for that. Okay, let's move to the next question. What are some platforms that I can
just to add?
Sure, Suhas, sorry. Yeah, please go on. Please
no, yeah. So just to add a point there, edtech platforms are very focused on the customer, right? So Byju's again space, Mentormind, Upgrade again in the young professional space, where they're looking at people who have just graduated or looking to do a postgraduate course or an undergraduate program as well. Mentormind again very focused on so edtech companies are very, very focused on generic customers. But what I think now the new age companies who are building e-learning platforms are doing is how they can improve their customer life cycle, right? So what HubSpot is thinking about is how can my customers stay on my platform for the longest, right? So for them that becomes a really, really big metric. And I think for Instamojo also at some point of time, you guys are also thinking that how can we make sure all our customers can stay on Instamojo the longest, because there's competition that is driving up everywhere, right? So the easiest way to do it is to build your own e-learning platforms for your customers, to build your own e-learning content for your customers, so that they can understand directly from the horse's mouth what it is and how do we use it, why do we need it, all of that. So like I said, edtech platforms like Byju's are for very generic mass, they're for generic crowds, but companies that are creating these e-content for them. They are doing it to improve the life cycle of the customer. So that's the key differentiator there, which you have to understand when you're creating an edtech business. Are you creating it for everyone, or are you creating it for your own customers of your business?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And if I may just add one more point here,
Sure.
it's very important to understand the difference between e-learning and edtech businesses. E-learning has been around for ages, and one example I can think of is when we are sitting in an aircraft and we get those safety instructions manual. And over years, first it used to be the air hostess or the purser actually demonstrating it. Then now it's all visual content that we all take in, right? So it's not as if e-learning has suddenly appeared, and every company or all channels of businesses have been using e-learning as a form. As technology has evolved, so has e-learning communication evolved,
Right.
right? So it's very important to understand the distinction between an edtech platform and other companies that use tools of e-learning to communicate various things, whether it's how to use your product, whether it's customer service rules, whether it's how to address a grievance, So I think it's very important to have that distinction made, that not all e-learning is edtech platform, but all learning on an edtech platform is e-learning. I
E-learning.
mean, I don't know if I'm able to
Great
clarify.
distinction. Yeah. Absolutely. That's a great distinction. In fact, it's like a great segue to the next question, right? What are some platforms that I can start my education business on? Catherine, you want to take that one?
So many. And I mean, I guess it sort of depends on how you want to do it as well. I mean, you could post content to Instagram, you can post content to YouTube. You can use one of these platforms that's already there and you start your business there. You just start to build up a brand. And that's sort of a very, bootstrap way to just kind of begin from the beginning and build it up. Otherwise, if you want to go really niche from the beginning, you create your own domain and you put it all together. And so I guess it depends on sort of someone's, how quickly they want to scale, what their what their pricing structure looks like, how much income they have to work with for it. But so many there.
Yeah, and in fact, the next question is also tying down to the same one. Someone's asking, is it good to start courses on YouTube channels or Udemy, or is it good to have your own domain to sell courses? What all are the channels that we can market our own domain? So I think that ties down to the question that you just answered. If you'd like to just add a little bit on the last part, where this person's asking, what are the channels that we can market our own courses on?
So the funny thing is that it's sort of a flip to, even when you have your own domain, if you're putting your content or like snippets of your content out on these social media channels, that in and of itself is a great marketing tool. Because if you have your own domain, chances are that unless you're pushing out a lot of paid advertising, I'm only going to go to that domain if I'm looking for it. As opposed to if I'm on YouTube looking at other similar content and then it comes up in my feed, that's what's going to take me to your domain.
Correct. Absolutely. I hope
And
that.
I'd also
Yeah.
like to add to that, when we're talking of brands like Udemy or other platforms or MentorMind, for example, half your job is already done. They have invested in giving you a vehicle to showcase your product. So, if the world today actually is all about collaboration. And in fact, Catherine and I, that's one of our strategic insights that we have made while maybe decisions, I should say, that we are going to progress with strategic collaborations, and that's how the world is functioning today. You are talking about giving examples of Udemy for a reason, because they have already done so much work, put in so much money, that it's now a recognized platform. So
Correct.
if you're getting the opportunity to showcase your product on an already established platform, I would say go for it. Half your
Right.
work is done.
Right. Right.
Yeah,
And any
yeah.
any
I think
it's the next question actually. Any best LMS platform that you would recommend to our users? So I'll let
yeah,
you comment on the question right after. Just this one bit. Any LMS
sure.
platform that you guys would like to recommend?
I'm not even sure what LMS stands for, so I'm
It's a
sorry.
learning management system.
Okay, sorry. Um, I don't know. I think it depends on the kind of content you're putting out there. Some are good for some are good for some. I think it's very unfair to the platforms or for us to tell you use only this without having any idea of what content, who's your target audience, what you're trying to sell, who will it benefit. So I think we need more information to be able to comment on that question.
Sure. I have a suggestion for that. For if people are still looking for an answer to that, I think Teachable is a great LMS that you can use to get started with. The second thing would be obviously YouTube. You can definitely make your own videos and start selling on YouTube. There are other LMSs that are available. WordPress can also be treated as an LMS if you want to build your own website. You can also use Instamojo as an LMS if you already have content that you're already selling digital content. So there are different options that you can have. We can also send you some links to, we have some blogs that we've written about different LMS or different platforms that you can sell your digital content on. We can definitely send that across on the chat for you to take a look at later. I'll just, Suhas, you wanted to add something to this particular question, not just the LMS one, the other one. This is the question. What are all the channels that you can market your own EdTech company on or your courses on? I think we've lost Suhas again for a bit. He's having a bit of a connectivity issue. That's all right. I think we'll throw the question on to him later when he's joined back. The next question is, who are the competitors that inspire your brand? Katherine, you want to take that?
Sure. So I think, I mean, broadly speaking, I don't know if they're actually, if we'd call them our competitors necessarily, but looking at sort of the leaders in the field that we've mentioned before, like Byju's, like White Hat, and looking at just basically how they've scaled in the way that they have, I think that that's really inspirational. But even when we're looking at our more immediate competitors, I won't name them because they're our competitors, but they are, value. I mean, there's incredible value to gain from, looking at what they're doing and sort of what the reception has been to that in the market. And seeing, I think, in looking closely at what your competitors are doing, both to see what seems to be working, but also where is there an opportunity for us to differentiate ourselves from their brand.
Right. To rephrase a little, what are some brands, they may or may not be your competitors, but what are some brands who are really doing edtech well? Like, and it doesn't just have to be Byju's and Topper and the cream of the market, but some of the lesser known ones that you think are doing a great job currently.
So I think here we have to say that what we are doing, we don't really have any direct competition in the market because the content that we are selling or the content that we are providing is upskilling of your soft skills,
Right.
right?
Right.
All the content that is out there in the marketplace is course content that is to be consumed for knowledge of the literary kind, right?
So,
So whether it's academic content, whether it's related to a hobby content. So what we are doing is we are actually providing soft skill life training, which is not really provided in this country at the moment. And in that sense, we're the first movers in this segment. And we really don't have any direct competition. Having said that, any company doing well and any company managing to succeed in their chosen area is inspirational for us, whether it's in the education space or not, because there's a lot of opportunity to learn. There's a lot of basics about doing your own business that is common across industries.
right.
So
So,
we
any
constantly
we can
learn.
name them. What we're looking for is some names.
So I think the ones that we all know and talk about are the ones that are very successful, right? And there are also certain platforms which we've seen evolve and grow into large numbers. So, for example, one platform that we are soon getting associated with is called Skill Monks in the South, which is enabling training. And it was very interesting to see how, again, the training is very related to academic consumption of matter.
Right.
So there is hardly anyone that we have come across, and we are very new, and maybe we don't profess to know the whole market, but what we are doing, we don't find any competition in this area.
Right. Right. Welcome back, Suhas. You're back again. Suhas, can you hear us?
I'm really sorry. I just was on the call and just suddenly I can.
Yes,
Can
we
you hear?
can hear you, but you're a little choppy.
Hello.
Yep. Yeah. Suhas, why don't you also give us take this question? Who are the competitors that inspire your brand? Or rather, to rephrase, what are some edtech companies that you really love
Sure.
their work? Yeah.
I think in terms of growth and the trajectory that someone has followed, Upgrade in our space for sure. Uh, Upgrade has uh, very quickly and market really well and waited and put foot forward. So Upgrade definitely something that some brand that inspires us. In terms of competition, we do not have a big competitor at least in India. We do have some competition in the West or in Australia that is coming.
Mm-hmm.
So there are those there are those specific competitions that inspire us. But I think in terms of taking inspiration from someone who's really capitalized the market really well and grown and understood the market, innovated is Upgrade. But yes, no direct competition per se.
Sure, sure.
But in terms of a market space, Upgrade is definitely somewhat short for.
I think we have time left for one last question. It's this one. How to overcome lack of human resources? Are there any reliable platforms which you use for recruitment while building your edtech businesses? Okay, that's a different one. Kavita, you want to take that one?
Sure. So honestly, we've been lucky enough not to have come to this problem. Extraview as a platform has recruited a vast range of very successful people who are, who are well established in their fields. However, they feel the need to, give back to children and society. So we've got, a journalist who's been writing for 20 years, to someone who's had international work experience, to someone who has worked with the British Council and Swiss councils, to someone who is a neurolinguist, to someone who has a banker. So the point I'm trying to make is that fortunately till now we have not faced this scarcity of good resources in the edtech business. On the other hand, I find that empathy is very huge in the market right now, and people are more than willing to step out of their way to help someone else succeed. That's been our experience. And so we've managed to put together a fabulous team and not face this scarcity issue at all.
What about you, Suhas? How do you go about building a team when you start an edtech business? Where do you look for people to work with you?
I think lack of human resources is just a problem in human resources. Lack of talent is a problem generally, irrespective of whatever space you are, ed tech, fintech, health tech, anything related to technology or not even technology. We've built tools where we've recruited 25 people, and in the ed tech space with MentorMind, we've recruited say about upwards of 15, 20 people as well. We really found it challenging, but then at our own resource. So let's say students who have just graduated, look at MentorMind itself uh, from our uh, students who've been certified, like we do for multiple of our companies. So that two people is right.
Right. I think Suhas,
Partner with MentorMind, get to
your connection is a little choppy, so we're not able
hire
to hear you that well.
talent MentorMind for free, right? So they can do that.
Okay, I think Suhas, your
Hire
connection's a little choppy, so
quality
I think we can't hear you about. Uh, yeah, I think
means
that these are issues when you're just like doing everything online. You just rely so much on the internet. EdTech businesses rely so much on the internet,
I
right? So yeah, I think we are almost done, and
You.
we're almost time's up. Thank you so much, guys, for coming on and spending some time with our businesses and answering these questions.
Because
I personally found this very, very engaging and very, very informative. What we are going to do right after this webinar is send you people an email where you can check out Xreview, you can check out Mentor Minds, you can also check out mojoSeries, and yeah, drop us your questions over email, or just respond to their emails or respond to their contact sections in their websites, and we'll be more than happy to take them once again. Thank you to our listeners as well for tuning in and asking these questions. Suhas, we're so sorry you've been the internet's
I
been
know internet's
yeah,
been
going
a
and going.
troublesome child today. Yes, so
Do
sorry
not
about that.
worry about it. We'll connect all our guests, all our listeners to you over email. And thank you for doing this. Thank you for spending some time.
Of
It was
Thank
a
you
course,
so
it's a
pleasure.
much.
pleasure. Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you for having us. Bye bye.